Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Caster WPF, and in this video we're going to talk about the drag and drop functionality and how to utilize them in your own application. So for example, you might have used thousands of times this drag and drop in your Windows applications, even in the Explorer. As you can see, I have set up a test folder where you can just drag any item and drop it in the folder depending upon whether it can accept the particular item or not. So there are some key decisions made depending upon what is being dragged and what to what it is being dragged into. So for example, I'm moving the item 1 to the folder. It is allowing me to do that, but if I drag this item 1 to here, it is not allowing me to do that. So in our video we're going to do certain decisions similar to what it is being done, whether it can be dropped or it cannot be dropped, and you can we can make something fun out of it. So without further ado, let's get started. And so I have my Visual Studio started up over here, and I'm going to fast forward the setup of the project, and we'll resume once everything is set up and good to go. Alright, I have my empty WPF application that has been created. It comes with the default main window, as you can see. What I'm going to do is we're going to play with colors today, and we're going to utilize the drag and drop functionality in between, and to how to transfer the data from one control to another with respect to what you are dragging and dropping. So my idea is to have a set of color palette on the right side and drag those colors over to the left side, which will fill that particular color whatever you're dragging and dropping there. And don't forget, I think I have a bonus section in the end, so just watch till the end and you'll be surprised. So what we are going to do is I'm going to create a custom class for my list of colors, which could be, I'm going to tell that as a color data, and I'm deriving that from observable collection. And this particular example that we are dealing with, this is actually coming from a color perspective, right? So we're going to have a collection of colors on the right side, and we're going to bind that this particular class over there and use them in the XAML directly. So in order to do that, I'm going to create the observable collection, and if you're not able to get that, it is under the system.collections.object model, and we're going to override this particular constructor. So here I'm going to call the default add methods, which is I'm going to add a bunch of colors. Let's start with red, and I'm going to copy paste this a couple of times. To begin with, we're going to go with red, blue, and green, and later we can add any color which I will be showing in the bonus section. So I'm going to save this. So over here we have to use that particular class that we have created over here, right? So I'm going to use them in my resources. For example, I'm going to use that in the grid resources. I'm going to give a key for that. Let's name it color list. And as you can see, anything you are binding from the backend, if it gives you this particular issue similar to our earlier video, which is I-value converter, in case if you have not watched that, I'm going to build this once and this should automatically go away. Yeah, that has gone away. So now I'm going to start working on the front end. So let's define the grid row definitions as well as the column definitions. So this type of definition I'm doing whatever you are seeing right now. I'm going to use something which is proportional. For example, this particular row is, when you compare this with this particular row, what will happen is this is 0.2 times the size of this particular row. So this one is considered as 1 size and this is 0.2 size. That's how proportionate this is. And we're going to divide this grid into 2 columns, which will be equally divided. So I'm not going to do anything by specifying the width. The next step would be just having a header. I'm just going to put something like drag your favorite color from right to left. We're going to align that to center. Going to do the column span, which will fill across 2 columns, and we're going to increase the size of the text, probably whichever is visible for the demo. And over to the left side, what I'm going to have here is a border which will be filled when you choose the color. So the left column for the row 1 and column 0, so this is, we're going to give a bunch of properties which could be just to give you visibility. I'm going to give the border brush as black and my thickness as 1, and we also have the background. For now it is white, but it will be modified accordingly depending upon what color you drag and drop from the right side. So we have the colors, and so far that is well and good. And on the right side I'm going to have an items control, which is, by the way, I have bunch of colors that is defined in my backend, which is going to get binded through the color data over here, and we're going to make a little bit ellipses to create a palette kind of a feel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first locate this, like I have the grid row which is 1 and the column which is 1 again. We have the item source, which is binded to the static source of color list, and I have item control dot item template, Oh, I'm dropping this everything in the border, so it should be coming out of the border so that it will come on the grid row 1 as well as the column 1. Our item template will be the data template. I have the ellipse to be created, and the ellipse, the width and height can be something as 50, and my fill is coming from the binding. We're going to give some margin of 10. Voila. So we have these ellipses that comes on the right side depending upon what you have in the color data. So I have the color data defined over here. In case if you're wondering, if I add a new solid color brush, probably purple, and save this and go back and build it once again, there you go. So you have the purple as well. So the first thing that comes into your mind, when you talk about the drag and drop, you have two things to worry about. So first thing is your source, and second thing is your destination. In this case, we have the source defined on the right side. My destination is again on the left side, which is the nothing but this particular border. So the data that we are transferring from right to left is just the color text, as in the string, what kind of color we are dragging and dropping there. So that will be simply a string which will be transferring it from here to here when there is a drag and drop placement being done. So to begin with, what we're going to do is the first step is allowing a drop on the destination, because this is must. If you're not allowing, you can't drop anything there. So we're just saying Windows like, I need this border to allow a drop from whoever is trying to drop. Okay, we're not saying who is the person or which content is being dropped. That will be coming as a later point of view. So here in our source, I have the ellipse defined over here. So what we're going to do is we have the mouse move, which we're going to use to initiate the drag and drop. So I'm going to create a new event handler, which is here. So what we're going to do is here we're going to check the sender is ellipse, then this is pattern matching. In case if you're wondering, this is very similar to if sender is comparing that of the type of ellipse and then typecasting it to the ellipse and creating the member variable. Everything is simplified now. So I'm going to check my sender is ellipse. If so, this is going to create the ellipse variable out of it, and along with that, for doing the drag, you have to click on your mouse left button and then move your mouse across wherever you want to drop. So what we're going to do is my mouse event comes over here. If the left button is pressed, then we are going to initiate the drag and drop, right? So that drag and drop, we have a static methods called do drag and drop. I'm going to do the sender as the drag source, which is the ellipse again, and the next thing would be my, okay, I know ellipse is the sender, so we don't want to use the sender over here. We're going to use this ellipse. So the next thing is the object or the data that you want to transfer. In this case, we are transferring something a simple string text of which is a hex code of that particular color whatever you have. So that can be easily accessed through the fill. I'm going to use toString, and we have the drag drop effects. I'm going to keep copy, and I'm going to save it. That's all we're going to do. We're just going to save, we're just going to initiate the drag and drop, and we're going to test it once. So I'm going to start my application, and I have my application over here. I'm just going to click, and you see this particular copy symbol in the mouse cursor. Please kindly note that particular mouse cursor change as soon as I start clicking and dragging. You see these places are not allowed to drop anywhere in my application except this control, which is the border, because of the property that I have set allowed drop as true, right? So as of now it doesn't do anything because we are not handling anything so far. So we're just confirming that whether it is draggable, and it seems like it's expected or working as expected. So the next thing would be we're going to put some methods on the destination, which is we're going to do drag over, or we're going to use the drop method. Let's see drop method how it works. I have the border drop that has been created, and here what we are going to do is if my sender is, because this drop is initiated from this control, right? So my sender would be the border. So I'm going to say if sender is border, create a variable out of it, and then we're going to get the data which we have, whether we are getting the expected data out of it. For example, we have the data and get data. What is the data that you are going to get? So that's the objective over here, right? So we need to check whether that particular data is present. So we're going to check for the string format. So data format starts string format, and if it is present, we're going to try extracting that data from there, right? So what we are going to do is try to extract that data that we have, right? So what I'm going to do is string from drop, whatever the content that is getting dropped. So we're going to cast it to string, get data, and data format as string format. So once we get the string, we need to validate whether that is actually the color that we are expecting, because we can drop any kind of text over there, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to create the brush converter, and then if converter is valid, because we have the string from the dropped event, I'm going to check whether this particular string is a valid for converting the contents to a brush. Then we're going to do the conversion. convert from string. So this actually gives you a brush. So the next step would be we're going to convert that into a cast. So the next step would be we have the border. So we're going to do border dot background equals the brush. I'm going to build this and we're going to start the application. To recap, what we have done is we have put the color list over to the right and we have the border over to the left, which is the destination, and from the source we have initiated the drag using the mouse move event, and we're checking whether the left button is pressed or not, and then we are initiating the drag and drop and sending the fill string over to the drag and drop method. And if you closely look at the next step, what we have done, we have the border, we created the drop method, and here we're just getting the data, and at first we're just checking whether we have a string which is available through the drag event, and we're converting that string through the brush converter and we're using it in the background. So have this application started. I'm going to drag and drop. You see the same color comes over here. So this is fun. So we are trying to transfer some data which is from the drag source, and we are doing the drop in the target, which is the border over here. So now to the bonus section, right? So the bonus section is it can be done from the drag and drop can be done from outside the application as well. For example, all this application checks is whether the dropped content is of a hex code or a equivalent color which is coming from the drop event. For example, I've opened a color picker in the Google, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one color. I'm just going to select, drag, drop it over here. There you go. Drag, drop it over here. So in this way we're not relying on the ellipse anymore. We are actually relying on the content that is being dropped. So the content is the text, and the text is actually being converted into the color brush, and that brush is being used to fill the border. So that's all with the simple example that I had today for doing the drag and drop. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, you know what you have to do. And please share and subscribe for more videos. Use the bell icon for getting notifications for whenever I post a video. Thank you for watching.